There is a magnetism in a woman who does not rush love, a quiet power that speaks louder than any declaration. When she chooses patience over urgency, her presence communicates security, maturity, and depth. She is not trying to force a bond to form, nor is she afraid of waiting. Instead, she allows time to reveal intentions, trusting that what is meant to remain will prove itself. This calmness unsettles those who seek control, but it captivates those who long for authenticity. The paradox is clear. The less she demands speed, the more genuine interest is awakened in her direction. Carl Jung described individuation as the process of integrating the opposites within us: desire and patience, passion and restraint, longing and self-possession. In love, individuation manifests as the capacity to hold desire without being consumed by it. A woman who does not rush proves to herself and to others that she is whole, even without immediate gratification. Her patience becomes a form of strength, not because she is indifferent, but because she values her heart too deeply to gamble it on haste. In her stillness, she embodies the maturity of someone who has reconciled with her own rhythms. The psychological effect of this posture is profound. Men are accustomed to urgency, to women who rush to please, to relationships that begin with fire and burn out quickly. But when a man encounters a woman who waits, who does not hand herself over without reflection, he feels something different. He senses that her affection, if it comes, will be real. He senses that her trust, if given, will not be casual. This creates both curiosity and respect. Rather than diminishing attraction, her patience amplifies it because it shows she is not desperate for connection. She is discerning. Daily life provides simple but powerful examples. A woman meets someone new and resists the pressure to define the relationship after only a few encounters, choosing instead to observe his consistency. Another receives affection, but does not allow herself to be rushed into intimacy, waiting to see if his actions match his words. Another allows silence between meetings, trusting that interest will show itself in persistence rather than promises. In each of these cases, the pause becomes more powerful than the rush. Her calm presence teaches others that love is not a race, but a rhythm. This posture is not about withholding or manipulation, it is about alignment with self-respect. A woman who does not rush communicates to herself first. My worth is not determined by how quickly someone claims me. This inner message shifts everything. She no longer fears being overlooked because she understands that what fades in her waiting was never meant to last. She no longer doubts her value because she sees it reflected in the way she chooses to protect her own pace. Her patience is not absence of desire, but the fullest expression of dignity. In Jungian terms, the power of waiting comes from holding tension without breaking. It is in the pause that transformation occurs, in the silence that clarity is born. The woman who embodies this truth shows that her identity does not collapse into longing. Instead, her longing becomes refined by patience, turning into a force that deepens attraction rather than diluting it. She becomes magnetic not by chasing, but by allowing, and in that allowance, she demonstrates a truth that words alone cannot carry. She is whole, and because she is whole, her love cannot be rushed. Ultimately, the magnetism of conscious waiting is that it reveals character, hers and his. By refusing urgency, she affirms that her life is already rich, her presence already complete. By observing rather than yielding, she filters out those who seek convenience and draws in those who are capable of respect. In a world that equates speed with passion, her calmness shines as a rare form of strength. And in that strength lies the secret of attraction. Love that is not hurried but chosen carries a depth that time alone can reveal. There is a subtle but essential difference between being open to love and rushing into it. Receptivity is a strength, It allows connection, trust, and intimacy to grow naturally. But when receptivity turns into haste, it becomes exposure. A woman who opens herself too quickly without observation risks mistaking attention for devotion, interest for commitment, charm for character. True confidence reveals itself not in how fast she gives her heart, but in how carefully she discerns who deserves it. To pause before giving is not coldness, it is self-respect. It is the quiet way of saying, "My love is not a prize for the impatient." Carl Jung often emphasized that individuation requires balance, integrating desire without being dominated by it. In relationships, this means allowing attraction while holding back from immediate surrender. The woman who observes before she gives does not lack feeling. She has learned to trust her intuition over urgency. Her pause is not rejection, but maturity. It communicates that her heart is sacred ground, and only those who prove sincerity through time and consistency will be allowed to enter. This balance between openness and discernment is what makes her presence magnetic. Daily life is filled with examples of this wisdom. A woman meets someone who seems perfect at first, but instead of rushing, she listens to the small details, how he speaks of others, how he handles disappointment, how he responds when things do not go his way. Another feels attraction, but waits to see if his affection persists beyond the first wave of excitement. Another notices his impatience when she does not reply immediately, and in that impatience, she sees his lack of readiness. By holding back, she allows truth to rise to the surface without needing to force it. This difference between opening and rushing often separates women who build lasting connections from those who repeat cycles of disappointment. Rushing often comes from fear of missing out, fear of being alone, fear of not being enough unless quickly claimed. But a woman who values herself refuses to let fear dictate her timing. She knows that love born out of anxiety cannot last, while love born out of observation has roots strong enough to endure. By waiting, she creates space for love to reveal itself as genuine rather than impulsive. Small signs help her distinguish mature love from disguised neediness. A man who respects her pace does not pressure. He remains consistent without demand. A man who grows restless at her patience reveals that he is seeking validation, not partnership. These subtle signs often appear early, but only the woman who does not rush can see them. Her willingness to wait transforms dating from a gamble into a process of discovery. She no longer hopes blindly, she watches wisely. This is where the archetype of the guardian comes alive. The guardian is not someone who closes her heart to the world, but someone who protects it with discernment. She welcomes, but she filters. She listens, but she does not hand herself over without reflection. She chooses carefully, not out of fear of pain, but out of reverence for her own value. To embody the guardian means to hold softness and strength together, to be approachable yet untouchable, open yet discerning. Ultimately, the difference between opening and rushing is the difference between confidence and fear. A woman who waits is not less loving. She is more loving toward herself. She allows attraction to bloom, but refuses to let haste uproot her dignity. Her patience becomes the soil in which authentic connection grows, and in that soil, she discovers that true love does not demand to be rushed. It arrives when it is ready, and it stays because it has been chosen, not forced. Respect is not something asked for. It is something revealed in the way others respond to your presence. When a woman carries herself with emotional firmness, she naturally invites respect without demanding it. This firmness does not mean hardness or coldness. It means she knows her rhythm, her value, and her limits, and she does not compromise them to please. Men who are emotionally mature recognize this immediately. They do not see patience as resistance, but as dignity. They respond with steadiness, because they understand that love that is not rushed is love that can truly last. Carl Jung often spoke about how the shadow surfaces when control is threatened. In relationships, a woman's calmness often brings this shadow out in men. For the man who craves dominance, her refusal to be pressured feels like defiance. He may grow restless, interpreting her patience as disinterest. Yet, what is really exposed is his own immaturity, his inability to tolerate a rhythm not centered on himself. In contrast, a man who has faced his own shadow will see her composure as a mirror of what he desires, a partner who is whole in herself, who does not collapse into urgency, but moves with clarity. The psychological impact of this difference is profound. A woman who does not let herself be rushed is not playing games. She is protecting her dignity. By standing firm in her own timing, she filters naturally. Those who cannot honor her patience reveal they are unprepared for depth. Those who stay, respecting her pace, prove their intentions without needing to say much at all. Her stillness becomes a test, not because she designed it that way, but because authenticity always exposes the truth. Daily life offers countless illustrations of this dynamic. A man who pressures her for quick intimacy is silently telling her that he values speed over sincerity. Another who waits, who continues to show care and consistency without demand, communicates that he understands respect. A woman who refuses to rearrange her life immediately for someone new is not being cold. She is affirming that her time and energy are not commodities. In each scenario, her firmness becomes a filter, clarifying who is drawn to her essence and who is only chasing convenience. This emotional steadiness also strengthens her self-image. No longer does she feel obligated to apologize for wanting time, space, or clarity. She learns that saying, "I am not ready to decide yet," or "I prefer to move slowly," is not rejection, but self-respect. Each time she honors her rhythm, her confidence deepens, and with that confidence, she no longer fears that waiting will cause her to lose love. She knows that the love worth having will not vanish in the pause. The archetype of the guardian resonates strongly here. The guardian does not guard by building walls. She guards by maintaining presence. She says no when needed, not with bitterness, but with certainty. She offers patience, but not at the expense of herself. Her quiet firmness becomes a shield, ensuring that her heart is met with reverence and not with haste. To embody this archetype is to show that strength and gentleness can exist together, and that respect is the natural outcome of such integration. Ultimately, the woman who refuses to be rushed into love transforms the entire dynamic of attraction. She teaches that her heart is not a prize for those who hurry, but a sanctuary for those who honor. Her calmness unsettles men who seek control, but it draws in men who value partnership. And in this way, her patience becomes her power, the silent boundary that reveals who is capable of meeting her where she stands, with respect rather than demand. There is a kind of beauty that only appears when love is allowed to bloom in its own season. A woman who does not rush discovers that her feminine energy flourishes, not in urgency, but in timing. She invests in her friendships, her passions, and her rituals while love finds its natural rhythm. Rather than waiting in absence, she lives in fullness. This fullness makes her attractive because it shows she is not defined by what she lacks, but by what she creates. Desire, when paired with self-sufficiency, becomes magnetism. She is not desperate for connection, yet she is open to it, and this paradox is irresistible. Carl Jung believed that individuation required balance, integrating longing with patience, movement with stillness. In love, this balance appears when a woman resists the temptation to define her worth through another's immediacy. She does not abandon her desires, but she does not hand them away recklessly either. Instead, she lets her inner life enrich her outer one. Her hobbies, her work, her friendships, even her quiet mornings become evidence that her heart is not idle. It is alive. This vibrancy communicates something essential. She is whole, whether love arrives today or tomorrow. The psychological effect of this approach is profound. Men sense the difference between a woman who waits in emptiness and one who waits in presence. The first projects need, and need often repels. The second radiates calm, and calm attracts. It tells him that her affection, if it comes, will not be born of fear, but of choice. And choice is powerful. A man cannot help but notice when a woman stands rooted in her own life, neither collapsing in his absence nor begging for his attention. That strength cloaked in softness inspires respect. Everyday stories prove the strength of this rhythm. A woman who continues her studies while dating, refusing to put her goals aside, later finds a relationship that admires rather than competes with her ambition. Another cultivates her friendships and personal rituals. And when love arrives, it does not consume her world but joins it. Another, widowed or divorced, spends years building a life of travel, art, or service, and eventually attracts a partner who falls in love not just with her, but with the fullness of her existence. In each case, patience fertilizes attraction. This balance is not about delaying endlessly. It is about refusing to compromise dignity for speed. A woman who honors her own timing shows that her love is not a bargain struck in urgency, but a gift offered in abundance. This is why her presence feels different. Men drawn to quick conquest lose interest, but men ready for depth feel compelled to stay. Her patience, then, does not repel, it filters. It ensures that only those who can honor her rhythm will remain. The archetype of the queen embodies this truth. The queen does not negotiate the tempo of her heart. She sets the pace not by stubbornness, but by certainty. Those who wish to stand beside her must respect the rhythm she has chosen, a rhythm woven by wisdom and self-awareness. Her attraction does not come from chasing, it comes from reigning over her own life. And in that reign, she is both approachable and unshakable. Ultimately, the feminine energy that flowers in its right time is magnetic because it is sovereign. By investing in herself while love unfolds, a woman demonstrates that she is not waiting to be completed. She is waiting to be matched. This distinction is the source of her strength. And when love finally arrives, it finds not an empty vessel, but a life already overflowing, ready to share. That fullness is what transforms her calm patience into an enduring form of beauty, a beauty that deepens instead of fading with time. To not rush love is, above all, to discover that solitude is not emptiness, but presence. A woman who chooses patience learns to transform what could feel like waiting into living. She discovers richness in her own company, the quiet mornings filled with rituals that ground her, the evenings where silence becomes a friend instead of a fear, the freedom to shape her days according to her essence rather than someone else's demands. What once felt like lack turns into abundance, because she no longer sees love as something to chase, but as something to allow. Carl Jung taught that individuation is the path of becoming whole, and patience is an essential part of this path. By embracing time instead of resisting it, a woman integrates her own desires with her deeper needs. She realizes that she is not half of a whole, waiting to be completed, but a complete being who may choose to share her life. This shift transforms solitude into strength. She no longer measures her worth by companionship. She measures it by the depth of her connection with herself. And in that self-connection, she becomes more magnetic than she ever imagined. The psychological power of this choice is undeniable. When love is no longer treated as a race, pressure fades. Anxiety softens into trust, and desperation transforms into clarity. The woman who embraces patience discovers that the right relationship does not collapse under pauses, silences, or distance. Instead, it grows stronger. Love that fears time is love born of insecurity. Love that endures time is love born of truth. By refusing to hurry, she ensures that what remains is authentic, not temporary. Examples of this truth appear everywhere. A woman spends years cultivating her passions, writing, traveling, creating, and one day meets a partner who admires her, not for filling his emptiness, but for living in her fullness. Another spends her time nurturing friendships and family, and eventually attracts a love that respects the life she has already built. Another, after heartbreak, allows herself the gift of years alone, and when love returns, it finds her not diminished, but radiant. In every story, the pause becomes the very thing that makes the love more enduring. This choice also deepens the relationship she has with herself. By not rushing, she learns to listen to her intuition, to feel her body's signals, to honor her emotions without apology. She realizes that peace in her own presence is not something to fear, but something to treasure. This self-possession changes everything: her posture, her voice, her gaze. People around her feel the steadiness of someone who does not collapse under loneliness, but rises within it. Her solitude becomes her magnetism. Jung would say this is the energy of the queen archetype in its most mature form. The queen does not hurry to be chosen, she waits to choose. She does not beg for affection, she allows it to come where it belongs. Her power is not in resistance, but in sovereignty. By transforming solitude into presence, she communicates that love, when it comes, will be honored but never idolized. It will complement her, not complete her, and that makes her not only more attractive, but more respected. In the end, the emotional power of a woman who does not rush love lies in her ability to turn time into an ally. Her patience is not emptiness, but strength. Her solitude, not absence, but presence. Her waiting, not a delay, but a preparation. She shows that love is not a finish line to reach, but a choice to make. And in choosing herself first, she ensures that any love she welcomes will not be built on urgency, but on reverence.